Okay, all right, you are live.
Oh, sorry, Teresa. Okay, it's 6:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and we want to welcome you here. We are excited to see the turnout on Zoom and here in person at the STC at University of Sciences. My name is Sarah Corcoran, and I'm an occupational therapist and professor of OT at the university. And I am introducing tonight on behalf of Samson's Diversity Committee. I'd like to begin just by recognizing the members of that committee who have helped to plan this evening and are doing some good work within Samson College for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And those are my colleagues in occupational therapy, Teresa Rhett Davis, Linda Lemish, Nicole Roberts, from physical therapy, Dr. Greg Thielman. From the Physician's Assistant Program, we have Allison Williams and Kate Jackson. And from kinesiology, we have Dr. Karen Richards. So the committee members are interspersed between here and on Zoom as well, but we are all here. Most importantly, we would like to briefly introduce our panel members, but our panel members will have a chance to share their own experiences with their own voice, but I would like to recognize their time that they are contributing to us and joining us from a lot of different places in the United States. So first, we recognize Ala Abu Arab, who is an OT and graduated in University of Sciences in 2010. Ala is currently practicing acute care OT in LA. He is a husband, father, union member, and longtime activist whose doctoral research centered on the exploration of racial bias among occupational therapy professionals. We also welcome Jamie Montez. Jamie is currently working at Fox Rehab with the geriatric population. And Jamie is in the physical therapy class of 2021 this year. Jamie treats patients in their homes, in the community, and in assisted living facilities. We welcome Pooja Patel, who is class of 2017 occupational therapy. Pooja is currently specializing in geriatric and dementia care at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago. Pooja holds many positions, including adjunct professor, national president of the Pi Theta Epsilon Honor Society, and a board member of trustees for the American Occupational Therapy Foundation, which is the OT Research Hub. We also welcome Asia Payne. Asia is a physical therapist who graduated at University of Sciences in 2016. Asia currently is the clinic director of Trinity Rehab in Wayne, Pennsylvania. Asia has practiced physical therapy in the outpatient setting for the past 5 years and is board certified in orthopedics. So you are our esteemed panel members, and we are grateful for your presence and your voice here tonight. I want to also begin with just a logistical and technical introduction about how this is going to work. We're in a blended format here of Zoom and in person. So what that means, first of all, we would like to tell you that this is being recorded for the benefit of people who may not have been able to make this time that they could watch when they can. We also want to hear your voices, your questions and comments. And we would like to make sure we can do that for as many people as possible. We ask that you're mindful of the time that you spend speaking to make space for others to share. There will be opportunities for questions. We will let you know when those opportunities are for audience questions and comments. During those opportunities, if you are here with us at University of Sciences, please raise your hand. Allison will come to you with a microphone, and we will make sure that our Zoom colleagues can hear your questions. If you are joining us on Zoom, you are able to submit your questions and comments using the Q&A feature. We have some people who are monitoring that closely and will be able to provide your questions and comments with the group. Okay. Next, we don't want to take up too much time tonight to tell you everything that the university and Samson and our programs are doing for diversity, equity, and inclusion, but there are good things happening here. And so we have time for our discussion. What we've suggested is for you to visit the university's DEI webpage. Maybe we can get that to the chat for you. But you can also Google University of Science DEI, and you can come up with the initiatives that are currently going on for our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. We also invite your staying connected with Samson's Diversity Committee. We have a dedicated email where you can reach out to us about things you would like to share with us, opportunities that we can share with our students and faculty, and the other way around too. We also want to spend just a minute to just set some expectations for this evening. I'm going to read this because we've written this together and I think it's important. This event is intended as a platform for practitioners to share experiences and perspectives related to diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging in the context of the work they're doing in our fields. We gather to share our stories, which are our most valuable resources. We invite you to join us on this essential journey to create inclusive workspaces and education. We recognize that this journey is continuous and this is a small step. Please join us in creating a community of respect where each person can honestly share current challenges and celebrate achievements. At the same time, we are each accountable for our words and actions. We can invite others to let us know when words and actions that we have bring an unwanted feeling or outcome. Let's acknowledge what brings us together, approach each other's perspectives with curiosity and kindness, and respect what makes us different. These attitudes and actions contribute to a safe space tonight. And when we feel safe in the spaces we're in, we are then able to begin to be brave in them. So with that, I would like to turn over to Teresa Red Davis and Greg Thielman, who are going to begin our questions for our panel members this evening.
So again, thank you for joining us this evening. So to begin, we want to invite the panel to briefly share their lived experiences as a diverse person in the workplace, specifically within your discipline. So anyone can start.
I'll go ahead.
Thank you.
No worries. My name is Ala Abu Arab. I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak with everyone here. Originally born in Ohio, in Northwest Ohio, born and raised there. I moved to Philadelphia for graduate school, for OT school. And then I lived there for 6-7 years and moved to California. And I've been out here for about close to 10 years now. And I've worked in a plethora of different disciplinary areas, from schools to hand therapy to acute care to home health to SNF care, and sort of seen the injustice within our systems and within our practitioners in every one of those settings. And I decided to go back to get my doctorate degree and try to make an impact on the profession with regards to race, racism, how we see our clients and our patients. And I decided to do a research study on racial bias within our profession. And the results, and we don't have enough time today to go over the details of the research, but the results are not surprising, but uncomfortable. And it's foundational research that's missing in our profession. The topic of race and racism in general is missing in our profession. And our profession is not alone in missing the boat on that one. It's up and down the healthcare industry. And so I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm here for any questions and answers. And I look forward to a great night.
Thank you for that. Asia or Jamie, would you like to share?
Yes, I was introduced as Asia Payne. On here it says Pinckney. Payne is my married name. But I graduated DPT class of 2016. And one thing I can say, my experience is I'm a true minority. I'm the only African-American working in my regional cohort of my company. It's been that way for almost all of my career. So has it affected my ability to work with patients? Of course not, I love it. But given the current climate, you do become a bit hyper aware of race and ethnicity with patients and also with colleagues as well on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you for that. Jamie or Pooja, would you like to share?
Yeah, I'd like to
All right.
echo. Hi, I'd like to echo Asia's sentiment here. I work at a massive trauma one out in Chicago, and we have a department of close to 80 therapists, and I'm one of 5 people of color in the entire department, and the only 2 of the women. And so there's definitely a huge minority. I mean, kind of to her point, like you do become a lot more aware of just like the differences in like how patients are treated, but also the differences in how your colleagues treat each other and the patients. And so even the system as a whole, like you start noticing how doctors treat their patients, how different healthcare providers treat your patients. And you just become a lot more aware of the internal thought processes or biases or prejudices or perspectives that you have, but also start noticing what others have in the workplace too.
Thank you, Pooja. Jamie or Casey, do you have anything in terms of your lived experiences that you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I can share. Definitely going on what Pooja said. Well, within my company, Fox Rehab, I'm pretty remote to my other colleagues and everything. Although in the assisted living facility I work at, I do spend time with an occupational therapist, and then of course the staff at that building. But with the staff and everything at that building, the caregivers, it is a good diversity with them. All the patients though, I definitely see a lot of, well, I see everyone 65 plus geriatric population, and there isn't much diversity within my population of the patients that I see. So for me personally, I sometimes try to chat with them, relate with them of certain things, and in one instance, or a few instances, they get a little surprised with a different culture or something like, oh, very unaware of certain things. I don't know if it's just the difference of our age range or also our culture, definitely the culture thing. But I've definitely grown to enjoy, I guess, educating them in a way of my culture where I grew up, my family from Hispanic origin, Guatemala. So I've kind of enjoyed doing that sort of thing, having more conversations with everyone.
Thank you. I thank you all for sharing your narratives. We appreciate that. So we want to move into like workforce issues specifically. And so we want to really talk about like historical practices, current practices, any type of recommended practices to break up any of that status quo of racism that we might see in the workplace. So specifically, I wanted to ask, what historical or current practices have you experienced within the workplace that either supports diversity, equity, and inclusion, or continues to maintain the status quo?
I can speak to something that supports or aims to support diversity, equity, and inclusion at our hospital. In light of all of the events that have occurred over the last 2 years, specifically, our hospital has started doing compassion rounds, and they meet like once a month, and they target a lot of these different topics related to internal bias, racism in the workforce, cultural awareness, just to kind of bring the subject to the forefront and to really identify that hey, this is an area of need. We need to, take ownership of this and be better providers. And I think that's something that is a step towards the right direction of really understanding how we currently are and how we can potentially move forward.
That actually sounds really great. Has anyone else in their current practices experiencing any changes or the status quo? And what does that really look like?
I can chime in for this. So
Oh,
for a long time, it's really been kind of like a we just don't talk about it. Like we don't mention it. We act like it doesn't exist. And at least at my company now, we've created a platform where people can talk about some of these issues of race, gender inequality, even some of the cultural issues, simple things like requesting off for holidays, recognizing, okay, some people want to take off for Juneteenth, some people want to take off for Diwali, making sure that the staff is educated on what those holidays are and how you can support your employees during that time. So definitely discussing things more has helped, in my opinion.
And I'd like to add, I think there has been a lot of movement for support, reactionary as it is. As Pooja said, the last couple of years have been pretty intense and pretty, that much more intense to people of color. And I think what hinders diversity inclusion is the systems that we're conducting our treatments in. They don't allow us, this is from a macro level, they don't allow us a lot of opportunity to be inclusive. We're a for-profit healthcare system. It's important for us to acknowledge that. You know what I mean? Access to healthcare is not given to everybody. It is not free. It is not accessible to everybody. COVID-19 exposed all of that. Those of us who didn't have insurance, they didn't want to get tested because we couldn't afford it. We didn't know. The education, your zip code shouldn't be a determinant of your health. And so these systems that we're in is what's really keeping us down. And as much as as important as having these listening sessions and having these moments to share our thoughts and our experiences and our traumas, really, until we as a profession and as a community tackle the systems that we're conducting our treatments in, we're not really going to get much of a change. Thank
you. Any comments from the chat or one of the other panelists on that is fine too.
There is one comment from the chat. Leadership in many organizations have largely not addressed it overly until recently.
Thank you for that. So this is back to the panelists. What recommendations would you offer to fellow practitioners of how they can advocate for this in the DEI in the workplace, for advocate for changes? One of you?
I think Jamie mentioned this earlier, but really just educating the people around you as much as you can when you notice something. I think education is there's never over-education, right? You can never over-educate someone on something that they don't know or they might not be aware of. And so, it takes a lot of our energy that we don't I do want to recognize that it takes a lot of energy on our end. And if you don't have it, then don't feel like you have to do it. But if you have that energy and you want to really educate others, taking that initiative and saying like, hey, I noticed this, and this, like here, like I would like to, give you a little bit of background on this, or, hey, I know a little bit about this. How about we look into it together? Or just, it comes up in day-to-day hospital practice all the time. People have different values. They have different beliefs. They have different, activities that are meaningful to them, and the day-to-day in such a fast-paced environment in acute care kind of takes away from all of that. We're so, can you get out of bed? Can you get to the bathroom? Can you brush your teeth? Can you do this? And they're like, I need to pray. I need to do this first. I need to watch my mass, and so it's like these things that are important to people. How do we work around that instead of just saying, patient's too busy, I can't see them today? Saying, oh no, okay, now I know your schedule, I'll make sure I plan your therapy session around it. And so really just trying to foster some of that independence for the patient too, but you're also addressing the things that are important to them for their own values and beliefs. And I think also advocating for that to your colleagues. If you hear a colleague saying, oh, they were too busy, I'm not going to see them today. Like, okay, why were they busy? Can we make a plan so that you don't keep missing them for the same reason all the time moving forward? So yeah, education.
Thanks, Pooja. You're getting a lot of head nods from lots of people, I'm sure.
Yeah. Because I think that leads us into one of our questions about our clients. You just offered some recommendations to fellow practitioners on how to advocate for a person, a real person that we work with every day, or a group of people or community, right? Where do we meet them? So are there other things that you guys do that you have to help advocate for your patients to make sure that they are not left behind and that they're seen and heard?
It's unfortunate, but you have to get creative. And as an occupational therapist, that's kind of like what it's in our toolbox. I'll give you a small example, and Pooja, you can attest to this. In the acute care setting, you're not really given a lot of tools to work with when it comes to like meaningful activities. Like she said, it's bathroom, it's toothbrush, it's this. And a lot of times the patient just wants to like fix their hair, right? Or something simple like that. And I brought this comb with me because like, this is literally all we have to use in the hospital. And I'm in Los Angeles, right? So I have a very diverse clientele, and this is all we're offering to our clients. So it's not very inclusive. And so it's about seeing, it's twofold, where you're looking at yourself, you assess yourself, you unpack where you're from, your interests and all of that, and look at your own biases. But you also got to look at your systems that you're working in, and then get creative with what you think is best for your clients, and then teach that to others. It's hard, and if it's like Pooja said, if you're tired and this is hard work. Doing this stuff is a full-time job you can't clock out of. But being creative can really take an important role in providing that care and being that inclusive practitioner.
And just to piggyback off of that, I mean, you learn time and time, it has to be patient specific. Everything you do, all of your goals, it's patient specific. If it doesn't matter to the patient, then it really doesn't matter. In order to know what the patient wants, you have to talk to them. You have to find out, okay, if everyone's with this, 3 times a week. Well, if you keep telling them to come on Friday, and Friday is their holy day, and every Friday they cancel, you're not talking to the patient. You're not getting to know them on that level, so that stop scheduling on Friday, schedule on Thursday. Even with employees, man, the power of coffee, that power break that everyone takes to Starbucks because we're getting ready for the second one in the afternoon. You have to communicate with people, and you have to talk with them. And when you do it in a way that isn't so like budget, units, money, and you're just trying to get to know the person for who they are, well, then that's when you start to break down some of those issues. And then if you're not in management, well, you could take that to upper management. hey, manager, or, director of the hospital, maybe we need to change our hours, or we need to change how we're approaching patient treatment so that we can reach the patients where they are and we're not offending them by trying to, make money for our business, essentially.
That's great. Thank you, Asia. All right, I'm sure the chat is blowing up, so go ahead and give comments, Nicole or Karen, whatever you think is.
Sure.
Yes. Oh, go ahead, Nicole. Sorry. Go.
That's all right. The first question that came up in the chat is, what role do you see colleges and universities playing regarding preparing students with a cultural competence skill set, curriculum which highlights and emphasizes cultural competence and cultural humility?
I've been doing the guest lecture thing for a few years now and sort of quasi involved in some curriculum activity. And there has been a lot of movement with providing anti-racist education in the OT curriculum. I can speak for, and a lot in medicine is really pushing for this proactive approach to dealing with race and racism, with discrimination, with stereotypes, treating it the same way that we're treating neurological disorders or cardiology disorders or anything else, right? It's that sense of urgency that's going to be needed from these colleges, these universities. Every 3 or 4 years, they got to submit the curriculum for accreditation. And so I've seen students collectively organize and push for better curriculum for the future, because of course it's not for them. And so I do see a lot of movement with that stuff and moving away from cultural competence to cultural humility and being humble about who you are and who your clients are. So that's a positive sign for sure.
We have a question from our live audience.
Hello. For those on Zoom, this is Rich DiGiacomo. I'm PT class 2010. And it's kind of going back to the comment or question not too long ago about what we're doing for our patients or how we're listening to our patients. And I've not only did I just go to school here, I grew up in Philadelphia. We have alumni here that are currently practicing in other major cities throughout the country. And I'm sure, urban environments aren't alone in this, but kind of the other pandemic that Philadelphia is dealing with right now and the violence and murder rate. And I've practiced in outpatient therapy in West Philadelphia my entire career. And now this may just be anecdotal, but I've asked colleagues and kind of trying to go through a formal needs assessment on, you're talking to your patient about exercise and how many of them don't feel safe walking out their front door to go and exercise. So this is a project that my colleagues and I, and trying to potentially partner with USciences and utilizing the indoor track here as kind of a supplement to, they can't get to a gym or afford a gym, they're only coming to therapy once a week or less, and giving them a safe space to not only reduce potential falls risk for adults or older adults, but reduce the risk of being a victim of crime. So again, listening to the patient and getting the full story and what they need to succeed in life and in health.
Thanks, Rich. Anything else in the chat? You guys want to go ahead, Asia?
Oh, I completely agree with you. So before I was out in Wayne, I actually worked over on Southwest Philly on 61st and Woodland. And 100%, I mean, I had people that would only come during daylight because they were so nervous about having to walk home alone. I've had patients where like CCT forgot about them and I put them in an Uber. Like called them an Uber and made sure that they got home, and I told them to call me, like I stayed at the clinic and told them to call me when they got home. When you talk about like those things are real, and it's important that we understand them. And likewise, I mean, I have colleagues that are coming from very rural areas where there isn't anything for miles but a Walmart, and people are so like culture shock when they have to do something in the inner city or even where they're coming from, where there just isn't any resources. Like they have to drive 45 minutes to go see the PT, the OT, the cardiologist, to see everybody. So they just don't go. And they're walking around with injuries and contractures that were 100% preventable. But because they don't have that accessibility or they don't feel comfortable going, they just don't.
Yeah, it's a complex issue, right? Especially when we talk about patient care, it's not just about, the services that we offer them, but it's about their community context, the social context, all of those things that influence the health and well-being of our patients. And like you said, we can't get them out to exercise, right? You know what I mean? Are we really doing really good patient care? Are we really doing client-centered care when we can't really meet their needs, So yeah, you bring up very good points of that, it is a very dynamic and complex issue, but we need to start somewhere to start to figure out how do we address this, right? From all levels, from a patient level, practitioners level, institutional level, right? Individual levels. So I guess that will move us into talking about even like working with patients, from different backgrounds. What have been your experiences with working with clients of similar backgrounds with you and different backgrounds? We just talked about a little bit from a social economics, from a ethnicity point of view. How comfortable do you feel, even like to talk about it when you first got out, and you first got into practice and you had to work with someone who was different from you? Or even similar in ways, what was your comfortability levels? And what kind of things did you do to kind of help yourself grow and to work with your patients?
I definitely want to butt into this first because I am fresh out the gate. I've only been working for 3 months now in this company that I'm in. So there's definitely been a few patients that have different backgrounds than me, religiously, culturally, all that. And so for me, I've definitely noticed at first a little maybe uncomfortable because I don't want to step on any toes, especially like religious wise, because when I first started out, there was Jewish holidays going on. So I have a few patients who are Jewish for all the holidays. And then even now going into Hanukkah, that kind of stuff. But as I've worked with these patients, get to know them better, again, with the whole education, like getting to know them and seeing, okay, what can we do to work around the holidays, because I go to their homes. And really just talking, listening, taking time. And then once I'm able to really get to know the person, or get to know more of their backgrounds, I've definitely felt a lot more comfortable. And with those that maybe have a similar background to me, I kind of don't have as much time to have to get comfortable. I'm already a little more there, but it's still all the needing to communicate and really get to know the person, get to know their life.
Thanks, Jamie. Anybody else comment on that? Otherwise, we'll definitely take some thoughts from the chat. I'm sure there's plenty going on there. I see, Karen.
Yeah, the chat is blowing up.
Go ahead. Just give us a synopsis and overview of what people are saying, and we'll take it from there.
I don't want to miss any, so I apologize. There's so many, and this is such a great discussion. So I'll apologize. I'm going to do my best. I think it's important to remember that those who are in the majority, e.g. white, need to step up to communicate and address these concerns. It is unfair to delegate all of that to those already tired of carrying around that racism because they are dealing with it every day. It's very important to empathize with the context that our patients are coming from, be it religiously, ethically, or otherwise, ethnically. Try that again. How can we expect them to be open with us if we can't understand them? Our priorities are dictated by our cultures and religions. Same goes for our patients. Client needs, hopes, beliefs, goals have to take precedence over business priorities. And we have a question. So can the panelists give 1 to 2 specific tasks that can be included in the education of students so graduates are better prepared to be good allies?
Thank you for that. That was definitely our next agenda item.
Yes.
So we'll go for it now.
Yes.
I don't mind taking that question first. I think as students, and I completely understand like the theology of all of this, because you want to be told what to do so you can go do it and do it well, right? But when it comes to this type of stuff, I think it's important to sit with it uncomfortable. I think a lot of us come from places that have less exposure. Some of the comments in the chat were, majority white professionals in a lot of our fields. And so it's not on the person of color in your workforce to teach you about diversity or about their particular place. That's for one. And for two, I think if you feel uncomfortable, you have a sense of guilt, you have a sense of, vulnerability, I want you to sit with that for a little bit. I think it's okay to unpack that. I think it's okay for you to sit with that, think about where that may be coming from, right? Do small activities like, write down the last 5 movies you watched. Who were the main characters? Who were your 5 favorite artists, musician-wise? Who are your favorite athletes, right? What are your favorite sports? Who compromises those particular interests, right? So it's important for us to not look for something to fix it, but to fix ourselves first and to unpack where we're coming from, who we are, and then sort of challenge other things.
I think
Does-
Ready?
Go ahead. I was going to ask if the panel had anything else to add to that.
I think to piggyback off of that, one of the things I remember when I was in PT school vividly was I was so nervous about being the only African-American. And when I finally spoke up and talked to the professors, they were very receptive. I think that, the PT professors could create a tone of you can come and talk to us about these things, so that if you do have students that are struggling with that, or they feel uncomfortable with some of the other students in the class, that they have a safe space that they can come to that won't result in retaliation, because 3-4 years is a long time. You got projects, you got capstones, you have all of those things. And then a second thing is just making cultural sensitivity or awareness. I don't know the political word for it now, but making that part of every single class. So that way it is driven home. Like, I remember like the examples of case patients was always Jill, Sue, Mark, making that part of every single coursework is important, because you do those experiential learning opportunities, but we're all healthy people. So a scenario where you're working with someone who can only work with women and you are the only man in a PT clinic, and being aware of that and things like that. I think it's very important to kind of start to work that in, but definitely creating a safe space for students to come forward without retaliation is important, because you might be surprised of how many students are sitting, whether they be Black, Indian, Latina, are sitting in your classes, and they are feeling some pushback from the other students, some judgment from the other students, and how many students don't even realize that they're creating that pushback. They don't realize that their whole life they've learned a certain thing and they have been acting that way. And now you come into a setting with a diverse group of people and you are offending people and you don't even know it. So.
Go off of that, kind of also in our chat, we have some comments relating to that. I know we've been focusing on issues in the workforce, but there also needs to be a focus on students that are future providers. There's been instances where racism is occurring in the classroom and students do not feel comfortable. So that was one comment. And also in our Q&A session, another student attesting that minorities are greatly underrepresented in the medical field, which serves a diverse population of patients, and failing to educate students on these issues ultimately becomes a failure of public health due to the fact that providers are not reflective of their patient population and lack of social understanding of their patient populations. There are different barriers set up that make it difficult for minorities to have the opportunity to work and go to school in the medical field, and it's an honor to be here. And we are equally as qualified to be here, and we simply would like to be treated as such. Ultimately, healthcare institutions and universities, as well as students and classmates, need to be held accountable to make a difference and address these inequalities and implicit biases in medicine. So going right along with what you are saying in the chat also.
We also have some questions in the chat. This is really geared toward, I believe, our professors, although panelists, please also weigh in. What classes does the university currently offer or require to teach diversity? Are we providing our students with cultural awareness?
Yeah, so well, we can tell you it's a work in progress for our occupational therapy program. If you've been through the OT program or are currently in the program, you know we have curricular themes. We try to weave them throughout our entire curriculum. And over the summer, we had discussion within the department about changing our thread of cultural competence to cultural humility, and letting that be a starting point. We have been individually trying to work towards more inclusive teaching practices. 5 of us in the department attended an anti-racist pedagogy across the curriculum institute at St. Cloud State this summer, and we're working to imbibe what we can in our classes. We have a student whose capstone is to take a look at our courses, syllabi, and see where that thread of cultural humility is picked up within the OT program. With that said, we know that we are just beginning that and we have work to do, and we are trying to learn together with our students with that.
And Karen, can you speak to a little bit of what we're doing in the orientation courses and how?
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to jump in. I was excited though.
Oh.
So that's something that we've done. I'm sure all of our panelists remember the HS 110, 111 courses, the orientation. All Samson College students are taking the orientation class together. And we've developed several different modules on diversity, equity, and inclusion specifically. For example, last week we did, in my section, we did what is known as the privilege walk. So it's really talking to our students as they're starting that first semester, that first year. There are also many different courses that are being developed and delivered, especially through our Misher College, specifically our humanities department. They are developing those as well. However, we're always open for suggestions too. Please know that.
I'll just tell you, as Sarah echoed, in OT department, the PT department is the same thing. We're really at the beginning stages of this. We've been analyzing it, all going to different workshops over the past year. So we're really changing things. Probably the best thing, before we get to my next question, the best thing that we've done is there's 5 PT faculty members along with some other individuals on campus from institutional advancement and community programming that have gotten a grant from the Pennsylvania Physical Therapy Association, where we are now going to run some activities to bring students, high school students to campus for programming activities during the summer, like maybe their junior or sophomore year. So that's going to start this summer. So very excited about, to bring students to so they can see opportunities that they would have not had otherwise. So that's one thing. But let me get to that question related to this, because right, we're all the panelists are educators here, so we're very concerned about this issue. So what is it you wish was included in your professional education? So please comment on that related to this, so that we could have but would have prepared you more for professional practice to address these issues. I think we've talked about some things, but was there anything that you said, you know, wish we could have done that?
I think if you can't, I personally think just getting more information about maybe some common practices you might see, common belief systems, common cultural practices, common religious practices. There's a million out there, but when you look at the majorities of the minorities, you know, can we at least start working towards understanding, okay, what's common that we should know about, or what's something we should address or look for in the various patient populations we may see, and just starting to bring a little more light to that, because I think part of the issue is we're leaving this up to everyone's own ownership, right? We're hoping that every single person is going to own up and take the opportunity to improve themselves and do this. And if we've learned anything in the last 2 years, that just doesn't work. And so I think just really maybe embedding some of that into some of the education, and, you know, just saying like, okay, this is what we're doing today. Like, here's a, you know, today we're going to focus on common belief systems that may impact, I don't know, some ADL performance or for OT, or some, I've seen a lot of resistance to assistive device use for various cultural reasons. I've seen in the hospital, we come across this all the time. A lot of our patients don't take blood transfusions, blood products, surgery because of their cultural belief systems. And so I think, and how does that impact occupational performance? How does that impact their function day to day, you know, and really trying to understand, you know, these were things I learned on the job. Like, these were things I really had to like look up and understand, and a lot of trial and error. And then it's a lot of work to do it on the job, when if it can be commonly, some of it can commonly be addressed within the education system.
Paula, do you have a comment to continue on that?
Yeah. So, you know, I just think we need, you know, we talked about the education piece, but we're missing so much context and so much history with our professions, right? Like, I'll just speak for OT, right? 19 something, you know, and it's like 6 white people that created it at a time when there was no economic justice, there was segregation, there were systems that were built while the profession was being built, and right. And so, as a curriculum and as a profession, we have to unpack those situations. We have to teach that. So we talk about risk factors, and you'll see heart disease is a higher risk factor if you're African American. You'll see different things, but is race really the risk factor, or is it the racism that's the risk factor, right? And so we're not teaching that. And so when Asia mentioned teaching this in every single course, that's what it has to happen. Like, that's how it has to get done. That's what being anti-racist is about. It's about being proactive with our education and with our action. It's not enough to just be, I'll say I'm not a racist, you know? So just to kind of piggyback on what was said. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. I'm going to just check with the audience if we have any questions or comments from the audience.
About the Zoom audience, anything? Go ahead, Karen.
Yes, we have, please note this this is a very sensitive topic. Can you speak about the microaggressions or biased attitudes you faced as students and how you overcame those instances?
I know when I was a student on campus, some of the things I dealt with was just being stopped by campus police every time I made the walk to go to Samson, because it's like, show me your ID. What are you doing here? And then even, you know, even on dealing with like clinical affiliation, I had a patient tell me that I wasn't competent enough to show her an exercise. And so I said, okay, well, let me get the PT. You know, I mean, in the moment, you're like, I can't believe she said that. I've been studying this book. I think that those things as a student need to be addressed. And I think that so in a way, I mean, for me, when I was on campus, I didn't have a specific physical therapy mentor. What I had was an upperclassman in the Black Student Union who was ahead of me and could talk to, that I can go and confide to about some of the issues that I face day to day. And the thing with when you're a minority is you're a minority, you're a small part of the population. So when it's just you, sometimes you get looked over because it's just one instance and it's just one student. So it doesn't mean anything. And sometimes, I mean, as a student, as a practitioner now, I've learned to cope with those things and learn to work around it. But I do remember as a student, it made me upset. You know, I'm from New York, I'm from the Bronx. I'm the only one in this class. Why is this happening to me? No one else gets stopped. You know, no one else, you know, things where you're leaving early to get to class, because if that happens and you're late, everyone's gonna look at you when you came in and say, oh, she's late. So I think that some of those things need to be addressed from an institution level, and in the sense of, you know, do all the staff know all the students? How many students has this happened to? And if you can create some sort of a mentorship program, have, you know, have a P1 mentor a U3, have a P2 mentor a P1, so that they can talk to them about these things. Everybody should have a mentor. We have them as professionals. The students can have mentors as well, to talk to them about some of these issues that happen on campus that sometimes get glossed over. Probably not on purpose, but it happens because you're a small part of the big pie that is the campus.
Thank you, Asia. That's great. And yeah, you'll be happy to know that we do now have a mentorship program. It's what, BioPack, is that what it's called? The Blaze, I'm sorry. Yeah. So you might have hopefully got a notification of that, because we're looking for alumni for that purpose. That'll call out at the end for that. Thank you. Anything else from Karen or Nicole there that wanted to go off?
So if you don't have anything, we're at 7:22 and we want to definitely be respectful of everyone's time. Such great conversation, and definitely we needed more than an hour to really, you know, unpack all these, you know, discussions that are coming up, and also like to address all the questions. One of the things that I wanted to do is ask was, is there anything that you've done specifically, like outside resources that might help our students that you've sought out, that you could recommend for our students?
I guess I can answer this question. Nothing specific or specific resource, but you know, kind of what I said earlier about being creative and thinking outside of the box. And I remember, and I think he's here, I think I saw him in the chat, but Carlos told me when we were in grad school to, like, don't even think outside the box. Get rid of the whole damn box. You'll still censor yourself. So look for support, look for allies, take care of yourself, be safe, first and foremost. Talk to your students, learn from your students. Sometimes activities that are well intended could be traumatic to students, so ask them for permission first. But so the resources are so accessible nowadays, where, you know, you don't have to go and look at the card catalog and find out the book, right? And I'm dating myself, but you know, it's at your fingertips. And so, you know, unpack yourself. That's where I would start from. What you're interested in and what your values are, and ask yourself why you have those values. And then you go from there.
Does anybody have anything else to add? Well, I would like to just ask, everyone, do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share?
I would just like to put out a plug for programs and universities to really evaluate themselves and how they recruit their students and what types of students are being admitted, and that, how are you creating an environment to support diversity? Because this is exactly what's then trending into the healthcare workforce is I am one of 5 people of color in a staff of 80 therapists that are all white, because that is what we are pushing through our schools. And so how are we going to those underrepresented areas that don't have access to understand or learn what PT is, what OT is, what the healthcare professions are, who didn't have the access to a good education system, so they couldn't get into these further education areas, or didn't learn, oh, this is a possibility. Even if I don't want to become a doctor, I can go work in healthcare. Like it's a big system. There's a lot of barriers, but really just starting to address some of them in this way of evaluating ourselves, but also the institutions that we work in.
Thank you, Pooja. Go ahead, Asia. Thank you, Pooja.
I think it is very humbling and moving that you guys are even doing this tonight. It just shows that you guys are moving in the right direction, and this is just a great college. I think for the students, now that like you're looking at your professors and you're seeing that they care and their ears are open. Now the hard part is speaking up and having the strength to say, hey, this is happening, and everyone will be like, whoa, what? I can't believe this is happening. But definitely, that every single class, every club, I mean, you can even make an activity, hey, go to a cultural event and write a report on how you can help the community, help that population. How can you, go to a BSU event and see, analyze GATE for the fashion show or something, to just show that you're supporting each other, you're recognizing each student's cultural and religious values. And it's also making the experience, the very challenging Samson experience. So getting your degree, but you're making it something that is fulfilling. So thank you so much for doing this tonight. This was awesome.
Thank you. Jamie, do you have any final thoughts?
I actually kind of want to piggyback on Asia, like getting the sort of initial email to see if I was interested in this event and everything. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I'm so glad USciences is heading in this direction. And although I am a new grad, so I can't see too much of a difference from maybe like 2016 or something like that. But even then, like, there still was differences from when I graduated to now. I hope there'll be great steps forward for the upcoming classes and inserting more of this diversity, this education within the curriculum. Like, I look forward to future colleagues then to see what they're going to get out of this.
Thanks, Jamie. Before we wrap up, I just want to invite our Alumni Association to say a few words. Tim Bowers, go ahead, Tim.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Banner day. I went the entire day without talking on mute. So I'm going to end this day with a bang. Thanks everybody for that. So definitely wanted to say thank you to the group for having this. I think it was a phenomenal conversation, an incredibly sensitive topic. Everybody was very respectful of each other's thoughts and feelings, and really, this is exactly what you want to happen as it relates to DE&I. So as president of the university's Alumni Association, we are also on our DE&I journey. We started just before the pandemic and had to change things a little bit, but we're forming our DE&I committee for the USciences Alumni Association. And so not just for Samson College, but for the other colleges as well, looking to, when the colleges ask for alumni speakers, I want them to have speakers that look like our students and then some. I want them to know that, you know, it shouldn't be 5 out of 85. It should be, you know, whoever wants to do this work and has the passion for it should be able to do it. And so being more representative than we currently are, particularly in the association, is very important in that. That's our number one goal this year. So any of the alumni or any of the students that are interested, we actually have our meeting 2 days from now on Thursday. Really cool merger update with St. Joe's, as well as hearing one of our young alumnus who I believe is a person of color and one of our young alumni award winners. So come on over, and then if you really still want to participate, we'll have that DE&I committee. We'd very much look forward to any participation that you guys are willing. Good news, they're all virtual. So we are still doing the virtual thing. It makes participation a lot easier. I would have loved to have been there tonight, but I have 2 kids and me and my wife's schedules just didn't pan out that way. So this virtual thing's been very helpful. So thank you again for the really phenomenal event tonight. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you to the organizers. And if you're willing to, by all means, reach out to myself, Casey Ryan, or anybody at the university, and we'd love to have you on Thursday and beyond.
Thank you very much, Tim.
So we just want to thank you in person, on Zoom. We just want to thank you for being a part of this and offering your voice. We're grateful to you. So with that, we'll conclude the evening. Please keep in touch and connect it with us, and hopefully together we can do this work. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Panelists were great.